Yeah, this is a public service announcement for you to stop looking at AI agents. Just stop. Stop looking and start looking at Airtable instead. So basically, the reason why I say this is because AI is going to improve faster than we can all keep up. It's just going to get better and better and better. But the people who can manipulate data and use data that they own in more genius ways are going to be the people who have the greatest ability to capitalize and actually do stuff with their businesses. So there are 3 levels of AI agent, and the most important one I'll get into, but it starts off with regular agents, which is probably what you're playing around with right now, which are good, they're okay, but they're not actually as effective as you think they are. Then you have data backed agents, and then you have real time agents. So here is a brief example of what I mean when I say level 1. So a level 1 agent works like this. You have a normal input, and then the AI does some thinking, and then it generates an output. And that output will be use of a tool that's connected to it, whether it be, changing something in Airtable, sending an email, creating a calendar invite, whatever it may be, any kind of HTTP request that you add to the end of an AI agent. It could be responding to the chat with something else, or it could be a webhook response. So it's very much input, AI, output. Same as any other chatbot would be involved there. So an example here is a very basic agent that you would just set up to do certain things for you. So this here is a hiring agent that I made basically yesterday because, oh, hey, I'm looking for a new hire and I don't want to read resumes. Okay, let's find out a way to make that a little bit easier on myself. So the way that it works is, if I can zoom in, that would be great. I don't think I can. I'm using a Mac and I'm a PC person, so I'm messing up here. But basically, you have the webhook, and then we get a record, and then if a resume exists, we use Mistral OCR to download the imagery of that, turn it into text, and then push it into our agent. And then from here, the agent will score the application based on the criteria that I have set up. And then it will send a Slack channel update, details in the thread, and then it will update the Airtable over here with the score. And then if they're DQ'd, then it will just say, yeah, they're DQ'd, we're going to leave them alone. If they aren't a DQ, then we'll send them an email saying, hey, let's have a conversation. Hey, let's jump on an interview. Hey, fill out this testicular assessment so that I can see you're not stupid. Basically one of those. So that's the first thing. That's AI agents on the very basic level. It's good. It serves actually a pretty decent purpose, but it's one small thing in the entirety of the situation. And they have their uses, but they can't do things that data-backed agents can do. So for a data-backed agent, we have a normal input, which would be the same input as the one that you had before. Then it gets data that you own. And then after that, the AI does some thinking and then generates a more tailored output. So the way that it looks is a bit more like this. So you have So you have the input, then it fetches data that you own, whether it be call transcripts, onboarding forms, client information that you have stored in whatever database or whatever it may be, CRM details, Slack chat history, email thread history, Google search results if you give it things like Tavily or Firecrawl to look up stuff for you, imported documents, whether it be, and these are just any kind of document that you own, that you've generated, that you've put into paper, that you can then just feed it. So your main offer, so if you have a white paper or a 3 pillars pitch, which describes exactly what you do for people, and it's A, I do this, B, then I do this, C, then I do this, you have your entire process there, any FAQs, any lead magnets or help guides that you have to basically incentivize people to look at what you do or to understand how you work. Then you have your SOPs, up-to-date laws if you're making agents that are going to work with, say for example, like I'm making a GPT assistant that is going to help personal injury lawyers do basically like client work and sales work with opt-ins that people that opt into like lead forms and Facebook ads, and just asking questions like, hey, when did the accident happen? If the accident happened in 4 years ago and you're in a state where the law for a statute of whatever it is, the time at which you can actually like get compensation for it or take something to court. If it's 3 years in some places or 5 years in other places, if you use the static time of 5 years, then you've just sent a qualified lead, an unqualified lead as qualified to a client that you don't need. So stuff like having up-to-date laws is a really important thing to have as well. Then there's marketing and sales stats. If you're keeping a dashboard, revenue stats, all of that stuff, just in general, your secret sauce. You feed AI all of this and the output that you're going to get is going to be so tailored. And for example, the best example I have of that is my personal assistant called Peggy. So Peggy is an agent that if you scroll down, you can see is simply just when a chat message is received, we hit up Peggy. Peggy will go into my Airtable, and this is a very specific Airtable record which has all of my client information that you could ever think of. It basically has information on every single part of my Airtable, and it also has information on every single call I take, because this company knowledge base is a vector store that takes all of my every single meeting I ever have where Fathom joins, it adds that information to that vector store. So it can pull apart sales meetings, team meetings, client meetings, general consulting calls, things that I'll have with people, all that good stuff. It will take all of it and it will find a single entry point to my entire tech stack inside of this Airtable, which has things like PandaDoc ID, Slack channel IDs, Gmails, Google Drive, so on and so forth, to search within that software and get what it needs to get, and then respond back with something that I would use or that I would need. Peggy is what I would call a business function agent, in the sense that it can do a lot of work for me as opposed to one small thing. Because even if you go back to looking at this agent, this hiring agent, this is one part of the hiring funnel. This is the moment that somebody fills in the Airtable form. This is what happens. Now, that entire first string is done, but the subsequent strings are going to be, okay, they filled out a test gorilla assessment and I have an understanding of their communication skills and their problem solving skills and their attention to detail. That is a score that I can then API back into my Airtable and have an agent do something else, like send an invitation request or book them in on a Calendly or show them a link that will basically manage that for me and book people on, or even have that conversation for me. And then after they jump on the call, the Fathom will basically say, okay, this person is stupid, we're not going to hire him. This person is this person is that. All of those subsequent bits aren't in there. They're not in there. So you can't actually use them. But when you have all of that data and the data that you would need in order for that function to be complete, i.e. the test gorilla stats can get API'd back into the Airtable. The Fathom call for the people that you have the interview with can be sequestered into its own little namespace in its own vector store, and you can take information from that whenever you ask, or an agent can basically do that for you and just drag that information in for you and say, this person is qualified, this person met the criteria, this person did well based on these statistics, they should be given a trial. And then on that trial, it may be just some live questions that you give them, and then you can make the decision on that point. And then if you say that they are hired or that you're going to send an offer, it could then go back to the same agent and say, here's the offer, here's a document that we've already prepared, sends it over, all good and done. That is a business function. That is the entirety of HR in that sense. It's an entire system within a department. You can't do that effectively if you do not have the data in order to do those things. This is where sat on the beach automations are made. This is where I want to basically automate the entirety of my fulfillment. I want to get to a position where I don't do copywriting anymore. I don't create static ads anymore, because whenever the client does something on their end, i.e. they fill in the onboarding form, I generate everything with one agent that just has access to all the things that it needs. Just one parent-child agent, because this is the parent agent, Peggy, and this is a child agent, which is called company knowledge. That's literally how it works. And then we have real-time agents. So we're not here yet. We aren't here yet, but there are some Silicon Valley companies that are actually looking into this. For this, there's no specific output. It's just watching you do things in real time and ingesting that information live. That is the input that it needs. Then it gets the same type of data that you own, hosted in, Airtable, Supabase for Postgres, previous chat histories, other vector stores, all that good stuff. And then it gets the data that it perceives, because again, it's watching you. It's either watching your screen or you're using a wearable and it's watching your surroundings. It gives you it basically could take, images broken down into frames. So if you have like if it's basically just like glasses or whatever it may be, it could look in at like 15 frames per second and just digest everything that's going on around you and turn that into something that can be processed by an AI. Then you have audio transcribed in real time, and then you have images, which would use, OCR documentation or picture passing in real time. So if somebody shows you here, this is like a recording or a WhatsApp conversation that you had with someone that you're looking at, it could pick up the information and digest the text and then understand what it is. From there, AI does some thinking, and then AI generates a tailored output based on the goal that you gave it. What to do next, what to say, how to change how you appear, where to click on your screen, all that good stuff. And that is level 3. So it takes all the data that you own, the data that is being received by the AI that turns the audio and video that it's currently perceiving into transcribed text in real time whilst you're doing things, and then spits out an output. This is very much the future, and we are 100% not here yet. But there is a company called Cluely, which is owned by someone called Roy Lee. And if you've seen the guy who says F leak code, who built the interview, like the AI SaaS that basically helps you cheat on Amazon and Fang interviews, it's this guy that made this. It's kind of like this was his play after doing that stuff to get some virality about his name and understand exactly what he can do. This is basically the interplay between wearables and AI, and the Cluely is the example of this. It's an undetectable AI that sees your screen, hears your calls, and then feeds you answers about it. It takes the real-time data that you're experiencing, pushes it through a pool of data it already has about you and the world around you, and then feeds you answers in real time. And this is where things are going, but we're at least 5 years from when viable applications for this are going to be used, and we don't even know culturally if that's something that's going to be very well accepted. So to kind of make this something that you actually would give a damn about, your focus should only really be getting use out of tools at level 2. So you need data, you need information, retrievable context. And with this data, you can start to put applications together. So on level 1 right now, which is what most people who are getting into AI agent building are doing, you can make an agent do something that will need some level of human intervention basically every single time that you make it. So you'll create copy using a system prompt that gets the format right, but doesn't have all of the information that is required in order to generate copy that makes sense for what you're looking for. Because if you say, write me an email in this format, even with the best system prompt in the world and the best assistant prompt as well, giving examples, that output's only going to be as good as its input is. And that's the case every single time, but it also means you're going to spend a ton of time prompting it. So the bottleneck will become going from spending 40 hours a week in manual chaos, doing what you hate, i.e. making the copy manually, to spending 40 hours a week prompting nonsense that you then have to fix, or prompting very, very heavy prompts where you're rewriting. For example, let's say you're a landing page creator for e-commerce brands. You're basically getting in every single time you want to create one email, you're opening up a chat, and right at the top of the chat, you're adding a bunch of context about the brand and a bunch of context about the product. And then you're saying, give me this copy, give me this copy, give me this copy. And then that's how you're going to end up doing it. That first chunk there, where you're putting in a bunch of context, is categorically useless when you get to level 2. Because on level 2, you can make an AI agent do something that has all of the context that you would ever need. You can develop a complete solution for an entire business function, e.g. copywriting is completely done. Project management is done because the Kanban just moves. Account management is done because it's just a bot replying to people on Slack in the relevant Slack channels and sending emails where things need to be sent, or doing inbox management for cold email. It's just done. Then you have static ad creatives also done because images are just being made by AI, going by things that we already know are good because we've gone and scraped the Facebook marketplace and uploaded those images into NAN so that it understands exactly what these images that are high performers actually look like. The words on the static images that need to make sense, all of that good stuff is just there. So you don't really need to do anything other than say, give me 5 static images, and then it will spit it out for you. And the bottleneck at that point would just be making sure that your data's in order. And it'll be going from spending 40 hours a week doing what you hate to 10 hours a week making very, very minor edits to prompts that almost completely work all the time. And level 3, we don't need to go there. We don't need to think about it. So if we're talking about a little to do for you or something to look at, it's this. The first thing is you need to basically create an Airtable base for project management that has tables that hold all the things that you need. So table 1 is going to be clients, table 2, onboarding forms, table 3, important documents, which is a table holding all the information for particular products, projects, or intermediary bits of copy that get created by AI that can then be used whenever generating an agent that's going to fulfill a business function for you. Team, and then whatever your project task or deliverable is. So I make landing pages. I have a landing page table. I make emails, campaigns. This is the campaign table. I make cold email campaigns. This is cold email campaigns. I make automations for different people. Okay, these are the automations and build outs that we make. Then create a CRM and actually use it. So you want to generate, I like Close. Close CRM is really good. It's really clean. It's really neat. And it's perfect for sales. You want to push your booked calls over to it. You want to push your ad opt-ins to it. And you also want to hold a bunch of custom fields that include all the same information or very, very similar sales related information that you would hold as columns inside of these types of tables. So instead of having a bunch of tables here, it would just be the custom fields for each lead. And the lead would have things like a ConvertKit subscriber ID, a ClickFunnels contact ID, their email, their phone number, the last conversation, which can be generated by AI, a bunch of other things as well. And then number 3, you need to create an account with pinecone.io and upload your documents. This is the vector store, and that is stuff we can go into at a much later date. But your business information, your SOPs, all your secret sauce, your white papers, your lead magnets, transcribed YouTube videos, client meeting Fathom summaries, client meeting Fathom transcripts, sales call Fathom summaries, sales call transcripts, all of that stuff. And then you need to then start to create automations to connect it all so that you don't have to lift a finger and all of the data should just fly where it needs to fly. So every time you have a new Fathom call, it just gets pinged straight in. Every time you have a new booked call, and that booked call basically has information in it about sales calls that are going on, you ping it in there. Whenever you're creating a YouTube video, you have an RSS feed that that downloads a YouTube video, transcribes it, and then feeds it into the same namespace inside of your Pinecone. This is very much the hard part, and it's what I do on a day-to-day basis. So like, reach out if you want to talk more about it, because this is literally all I do anyways, and it's all I think about nowadays as well. One of the biggest things, and I'll probably end up making a video on this, is that people know that AI is strong and powerful, but people don't really have any ideas. So people will come up to me and basically ask them, yeah, I know AI is important and like all great and good and amazing and stuff, but I don't actually know how to use it, or I don't know what can be done with it. I literally had a conversation yesterday about that as well. And knowing what's possible is how you understand exactly what can be done. This is just the frontier upon which all these things that you believe are possible can actually be fulfilled. So, yeah.